Chris Moses here with Gospel Progressions University, and today I'm going to talk about left-hand chord voicing. I'm going to show you some basic and I'm going to show you some advanced techniques on the strategy of left-hand chord voicing. Now, some of you may think that you may need a bass player, but a bass player isn't required to play left-hand chord voicings because it can help you to open up and explore some new strategies and techniques in this genre of gospel music. So let's dig into the left-hand chord voicings. All right, so let's dig in. When you are talking about what a voice is or voicing is, it actually refers to the specific arrangements of notes within a chord. So, for example, if we played a C minor chord, the C, the E flat, and the G would give us one voicing. If we played E flat, G, and C, that's an inversion. It's called the first inversion of C minor. That'll give us another type of voicing. And finally, if we play G, C, and E, we have the second or the third type of voicing, or the second inversion. Now, this is significant because with proper voicing, it's going to help us to create a rich and more full sound in gospel music. If we're playing a song, and let's say it's in C minor, right? And just a quick overview or review of C minor would be C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, and C. It's a 7-tone scale. So we played just everything that would belong to C minor. We played C minor here, and then we went to an F minor chord. Then we played a G minor chord, or rather G minor chord, and then we went back to C minor. What we're playing and what we're doing is accompanying someone else while they play or sing the melody. So you may have another instrumentalist that may play a melody over the chords while you support them with the harmony. And typically this is going to be played in your right hand with chords, and you might play some type of bass or the root in the left hand. But when we look at left hand chord voicing, it involves playing chords with the left hand while the right hand actually plays the melody, or it's going to do some kind of improvisation or improvising. This is something that's borrowed from jazz and it's used a lot in gospel. If I played those same chords in my left hand, I'm going to have the C, E flat, G, the E flat, G, and the C, and then the G, C, and the E flat. If you notice, all I'm doing is taking the bottom note and putting it from here on the top. That inversion, I take the bottom note. When I go to invert it, put it from here and play it on the top until we're back. So this is simple because we only have 3 notes. But with gospel, we're typically going to have, of course, you're going to have 4-note chords. So it just won't stop at C minor. So the role of playing left-hand chords actually provide a harmonic structure, and it helps to build a solid foundation for what you're going to do in your right hand. So let's take a quick look at C minor again, right? We know C minor is C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B, and C. When we're looking at gospel music, we're paying attention to the 5 notes of that actual scale. And the 5 notes would be the C, which is 1, the E flat, which is your flat 3, F, which is 4, G, which is 5, and your B flat is your flat 7. Or C, E flat, F, G, B flat. So it's a 5-tone scale, and these are going to be the notes that actually support or have the most influence on gospel music. So in this case, we're playing the C minor pentatonic scale. Of course, we're going to take the C minor pentatonic scale. These are the very important 5 notes that I was just talking about. So remember, we're going to derive the melody from this pentatonic scale here. But doing that, we need to know what chords to play. So in gospel music, you have a particular kind of chord progression. And in gospel music, jazz and gospel, it's the same thing. You'll find it a lot where you have one of the most popular chord progressions is known as a 2, a 5, and a 1 chord progression. We're looking at 2 in relation to C. So C is 1. So the next one would be D, 2. And if we moved up, it would be in C minor, it would be 3, 4, and 5 would be G. So if we play the notes in succession and we're looking at, say, the roots of the chords of the chord progression, 2, 5, 1 would be D is 2, G is 5, and C is 1. But how do we represent that with chords? In gospel music, whenever we form chords, we're going to move in thirds. So we're going to go from D to F. But like in the key of C, or unlike the key of C, there is no A. There's an A flat. So we go from here, D to F to A, we have a different type of chord. It's a minor chord, but it's a minor chord with the fifth here for D, 1 minor 3 5 is flattened. So we can continue to go up. So we have this chord now. We have a D minor 7th chord with a flatted 5. So this is the 2 chord that we're going to play. So anytime we play 2-5-1 chords in gospel music, it's typically going to be based on that. That is your basis of chords. It doesn't have to always be that, but most of the time with this kind of chord progression, with a minor chord progression, the 2 chord is going to be a minor 7th chord with a flatted 5. And then the 2nd chord now, we have a 5 chord or some type of 5 chord. And this is the other trick that I want to show you here. When we're looking at a 5 chord, we obviously know there's going to be a G chord, but we're not playing in C major. So we're not going to have this chord here. We're going to have a G minor because 2, 3, 4, 5, G is going to make a minor triad in the key of C minor. However, the rule is this. The first chord is going to be a minor 7th chord, or the 2 chord that we play in the progression. When I say first chord, I mean the first chord in the progression. So it's a 2 chord. And the 2nd chord will be a 5 chord, but it won't be a minor 5 chord. The 2nd chord will be a 2 chord, and then we have a 5 chord. We're going to make it dominant. Make it dominant by making the B flat a B natural to give us G. So this would be the chord in the right hand, or this would be the chord here in the right hand. And we can do the same thing with the left hand. We can play it here or bring it down here. So we have a G7 chord. But if we keep going like we have with this, we can you can expand this. So if we did this, G, B, D, F, and A flat. Okay, so now we can expand that. We just kind of ran out of fingers. So then what do? Well, when you run out of fingers, you can actually start to move things around by inverting them and changing the voicing. Okay, so if we're going to play that now in our left hand, we know the first chord is going to be D minor 7 with a flat 5. Second chord is a G7, but we can't do anything else because we don't have enough unless we made it really awkward for ourselves and try to do this, but it's going to be a very hard stretch and it's not possible for me. I would need another finger. So we need to start looking at another strategy. But before we get there, we're going to talk about, of course, the final chord that we have here is going to be right back to the 1 chord. So we can do that. So how do we now take what we have in our right hand, which would be a 2, all right, and a 5 with this, and then a 1 chord. What we would do is start to change the voicing and do these inversions that we looked at. So the lowest note doesn't always have to be the root. So we can play it like this, and then we can take with our left hand, and then we could make the footprint of our left hand a bit smaller and maybe easier to play. So we bring the D up an octave. We can still play it. We still have the root. The root is still there, but if we were to take the root out, now we just have a triad of F, A flat, and C, which is basically an F minor chord. And we can have a bass player play the D and give us a completely different sound because it changes the structure of the harmony when we change the bass. But that necessarily, the F here isn't necessarily the root of the chord. But we just have it as rootless here, but we have the root here. And we're playing this in the root position because it's the first position. So our left hand is 2 chord, or we can just do this. And then now we can go back to the other chord we were saying before, this chord here. All right, so what if we took the bottom note and put it on top and inverted it and changed the voicing? We have this here, B, instead of G, B, D, F, A flat, we now have B, D, F, G, A flat. We have this, but this is still hard to play with one hand, and it's a little dense for me. It might get in the way of the melody. So we can start looking at maybe dropping some things, all right, and maybe some other inversions. So let's take now the B here and bring it on top. Okay, it's still very dense. It's even more dense now. So what if we took out the root, the G, and completely and gave that to the bass player, right? And let's let the air kind of take its place. So we have this. And even if this is too dense, we can still take out another note. And I would actually remove the F, because I'm going to do something else that I'm going to show you later on. That's going to actually help the harmony. But for now, this is what we have in our left hand. We started out with this chord here. Then we went to this chord. We started out with a D, F, A flat, C. Then we went to the F, A flat, C, D. We took out the D, and then we ended up with F, A flat, C. We got that just simply from playing this chord here. And we got this chord. And the next chord, instead of playing and then needed to have another, tying up our right hand, we dropped the G completely. First you brought it up here, that didn't work. We dropped the G out completely. And then we dropped the F, leaving us with D, F, and B. So our first chord is basically an F minor chord, but we know really that we're playing a D minor 7 with the flat 5. And then we go to the G chord that almost looks like a D diminished 7 chord, but without the minor third. It looks closer to the first chord except for this B here. But we know that it's a G chord. Okay? So we have this here. And then finally we can go right back now and easily move to our C minor 7. So instead of having our right hand just kind of lame sitting around, we can actually add something to it. So let's look at a melody here. We're gonna do okay, that's basically what the melody is. Again, I'll play it, all right? So all of the notes that just played for the most part from that melody that I did are part of the C minor pentatonic scale. Now we can take that same thing now. Remember, these notes here, all right, so we won't play it that static, but that's the idea. I want you to get the general concept. So if we have our first note, our first chord again would be D, G, and then C. All right, so in other words, 2, 5, and 1. 1. So now we can do something like this here. So what I did there was show you the melody so you could see it in the style of gospel music. And it's not going to ever be played straight out just like, the pentatonic scale. You can play it, but you can play it with a gospel flair. Of course, the way we do that is using leading tones and trills. All right, so the first note is going to be the target note is G. But I start off on, I land on the chord on the G. So these two notes emphasize the final note. So, and then we have the second chord. This is your 2 chord. So, all right, and then we have, it ends up here on this D. So the C trills into the D, and then we resolve, all right? And it lands on the chord. The E flat lands would be the minor third from C. Remember that, and ends here. And then we just outline C again. So what I'm doing again, this is part of another scale, but they work so close together that you can use them. You can use other trills as like a grace note. So this G flat will be used as a grace note to go to F, and it's mostly off of the C minor pentatonic scale. So let's take another song, "Kingdom" by Maverick City and Kirk Franklin, and it's in the key of F major. And we can take it and use the same approach. So just so we have the understanding of the song here, it's all right. Okay, so it's G minor 7, same 4 chords, G minor 7 to F over A, and then D flat diminished or C sharp diminished over or C sharp diminished, and then diminished 7, and then D minor 7. So So if you notice, the left hand is doing most of the root and the bass, and the right hand is doing all the rest of the work, is carrying the chords and the melody. So we can kind of lighten the load a little bit, not by completely eliminating the chords in the right hand, but it will give the right hand more freedom to do other things. So we can do the same chord progression. We can go all right, all right, all right. Same exact thing, same exact chords. All right. What we have here is this. Over G, all right? Now right hand, a left hand, we play the F, B flat, C. It's the G minor 7 chord, but we dropped the G, all right? And we added this C here. Because it's all in the key of F, right? So we have the C here. Right hand is still playing the chord, but there's more space for it. All right, all right. Right hand is good. Left hand is F, G, A, C, and this is all the right hand is doing. All right, and then we have the right hand is doing the chords, so it's going to be. You can do this. You don't even have to double the E because we have this D flat or C sharp diminished, so we have G here. Or the F major over the D is the same thing as a D minor 7. So we have this chord. Or rather, well, that would work too, but we'll just stick with this. All right. And it looks like an F major, but we play the bass, it changes the sound altogether. All right. So same thing. Again. What did I do here? Or this did this. That's how that works. So to summarize this, the best way to look at left hand chord voicing is to take whatever you're playing in your right hand, whether it's a 3-note chord, a 4-note chord, or even if you're playing 5 notes, take that same exact chord and you can play it in your left hand, all right? You're playing this, and you could decide on what you'd want to drop or keep, depending on the comfortability of your chord. Like this is very awkward for me, so I'll take the C and I would bring it up to the top. It's very dense, so I might start to get rid of some of the notes. Okay, so if I can do this here, maybe I might lose the, I don't know, I might take the B away and just have this, you know, have that there, or I may take away the A and leave the B and may play that. Okay, so it all depends, but you want to experiment. And then what you can do with your right hand is play whatever the melody is. So wherever the beats land on the chord, like sort of like what I was playing before when I had my first chord and I just had the, you know, it landed on the 2 chord here, and then the 5 chord was played as, and then we had resolved here. So we can pay attention to wherever the melody is on our right hand, play that, learn that by itself with your right hand. You're going to play the exact same thing in your left hand, but you're going to take the chords and sort of customize them for your left hand so they're more comfortable and they're more appropriate to play in your left hand. But pay attention to how how it sounds. You know, if you are not looking for a dark sound, or at some point it's just going to sound really muddy in your left hand. If it's so muddy, you want to take it and just play with the octaves and bring them higher and omit some things. The best thing you can do, though, is use your ears. Something may look good, but it may not sound good. So use your ears to determine what you can keep and what can stay. Hope that helps you. If it has, go ahead and leave a comment, and you can, drop a like for me. And also, if you haven't yet, don't know what you're waiting for. I will say this. Go and check out my free guide. It's called What Do Pro Musicians Know That You Don't? I will leave the link in the description on my site. God bless you, and I will see you in the next video.